Well, hello and welcome to the radio room. Trying something a little bit different tonight. Got a different camera system set up, or a new camera system set up, to work on the big bench for bigger radios, uh, things I'm working on that take up a little more space than the regular area that I normally work in. Got a different microphone over here. Got a new camera over here. A little bit different way of doing things as far as the way it's recorded and videoed and the sounds captured. I still have the other system set up on the regular workbench, and hopefully if I have to move between the two, things will work seamlessly. Hopefully I've got everything synced right. That brings the radio room up to basically 3 cameras and 2 microphones to do all this. But I wanted to do a quick video, hopefully a quick video, on a receiver that I've kind of been working on and off. This is a very old receiver. You're actually looking at the top of it right now. This is a BC 348Q. It's a Army Air Corps aircraft receiver. This particular receiver model was used quite a lot in bombers, such as the B-29, and I believe the B-25 also had this radio or a very similar model to it that might have ran off a slightly different voltage. So even like the Enola Gay that dropped the first atomic bomb actually had one of these radios in it. I'll flip it up here in just a second and we can take a look at the front of it real quick. Still trying to figure out this camera setup, so I'm going to apologize right now if we have any like shaking of the camera. It's actually on kind of a boom. It's actually attached to the side of my work lamp, which has a movable boom on it. So if it shakes a little bit, kind of swings back and forth, my apologies. Might be able to figure that out a little bit better in the future. Let me go ahead and get this radio kind of flipped up so we can take a look at it real quick. I've got to do this real carefully. I've done some other work to it, including changing the way the power is going into the back of it. So let me get this thing flipped up and turned around here. And I am going to have it setting on something to keep the actual back off of it a little bit. Let me see if I can get a little better view of it here. This camera is movable now, this camera is movable. Let's see if the lighting can change a little bit. So that's a little easier to see. So still working out some of those details as well. And I'll try to minimize the shaking as much as possible. So this is a military receiver. It's got several controls on it. We'll kind of start over here at the left. Hopefully this is coming out okay. I'm trying to watch the monitor at the same time. This is the first video I've made with this video, except for a few 10-second tests, making sure the audio was working and was synced correctly. So we got CW oscillator on and off, crystal control in or out. That's crystal filter, I believe. We do have 2 connections here. They're 1/4-inch monos. That's for audio output. This is the on-off switch and the automatic volume control and the manual volume control. When you're in manual volume control, of course, the increased volume does work. Beat frequency, this is for changing the frequency that you're beating. And of course we have tuning right here. This does have a pretty cool band switch. If you can see right there, I think we actually have some glare right there. So let me kind of hold my hand in the way. Maybe you guys can kind of see this. So as you turn this, You got 13.5 to 18 megacycles. It changes the window, so there's 9.5 to 13.5 megacycles. So I'm going down in frequency here. So let's go all the way down to the bottom. 200 to 500 kilohertz. Right there. And then we got 1.5 to 3.5 megacycles. 3.5 to 6 megacycles. 6 to 9.5 megacycles. 9.5 to 13.5 megacycles. And 13.5 to 18 megacycles. Let's see here. Let me move the camera over just a little bit and we can take a look at the rest of the receiver. We do have a dial light control here. This was in an aircraft, so sometimes the light varied a little bit. You might want to have to, turn those down real dim. Maybe the aircraft's real dark. You don't want to lose your night vision, or you just don't want something glaring in the back of maybe a potentially dark aircraft, especially at night. You don't want to have a lot of lights on. So you could change the dimmer. And right here is our antenna. It's just you push in, slide the wire in right here. Let me move the camera over there just a little bit. So it's basically, you just had a wire that came out. You probably have it going this way, so it wasn't in front of there. You just pushed down, stuck it in, and then it springed up. And of course the ground for the antenna as well. So that's pretty much the front of the radio here. I'm going to flip this back down onto its, so it's sitting up and we can look at the top of it real quick. And please forgive the camera moving around. I'm just manually moving it around. So, and there's the top of the radio. One thing I want to point out right now. Let's see if I can get a little. Let's see if what this light's going to do. It's not too bad. A little bright right in this area. You notice this big open space right here. Well, that's because this has a dynamotor in it. This took the 28 volts from the aircraft and provided the approximately 240-ish volts to 250 volts that would be used in the tubes for the plates. Basically, all it is it's a electric-driven generator. So just picture a DC motor that has windings in it to make it a generator on the other side of it. You run 28 volts to spin it, 250 volts comes out the other side. The aircraft that this one was in was 28 volts, and the plates, like I said, are right around 250 volts. I did do a little bit of work on this. I didn't get it on camera, didn't have it recorded. These two caps on the end start from about right there out on both sides, come off. There's bearings on each end of it. I wanted to make sure that was greased before this radio was turned on. This thing spins at about 4,400 RPM, so you don't want dry grease inside of the ball bearings, or it's going to have a bad day, which I thought was going to be a little bit difficult to find. I did find some, I'm calling it the blue goo. It's just Polyrex electric motor grease. Got it from a local supplier here in town, who was actually pretty interested about what I was working on here. He obviously, he had not seen one, and we joked about it. It was probably older than both of us. And who knows how old the grease was. So we got that greased up. I cleaned it up a little bit on the inside. I really wish I'd gotten a video on that. I got pretty excited about working on this, especially once I found some grease of tearing it down and rebuilding it. I'm not really rebuilding it, but lubricating it, cleaning it, And then I did test it out. It does have 28. I put 28 volts into it, and we had about 254 volts output. Of course, that's 250 volts unloaded. That's just, you know, a VOM on the output of it while it was spinning. So I know it works. It does need to get put back into here. Right down in here. I'm not really sure y'all can see that. Let me see if I can get the camera in there. That's all the wires right here. Oh, let me reach through here. These wires right here connect to the output of that dynamotor, and that provides all the high voltage into the receiver. The two filaments in this particular radio are run by the 28 volts that come into the radio. They're just in series, so once you take all of the filaments, put them in series, you drop it down to about the required 6.3 volts that you need per filament. The unfortunate thing is if one filament goes out, you pretty much lose most of your tubes. I think there's a little bit of a series parallel going on as well, just come from the amount of tubes that are in here. I don't remember exactly the number. 6 comes to mind. It might be more than that. So what I want to try and do in this video, and I might pause it in some places and do some of the work, just because it's going to be hard for y'all to see what I'm doing anyhow, even with the new camera. And then I'd really like to hook this thing up and see if it will come to life by the end of this video. It has not been turned on since I've gotten it. We received it from the estate of a silent key amateur radio operator that it had it set up. I've looked over a lot of stuff in here, just visual inspection. Looked at some of the capacitors. It's got some bathtub capacitors in it, whatnot. None of them appear to be leaking. I could not find anything that looked like it was burned, gotten hot. It really is a really nice radio. A very nice receiver. It's in excellent shape. Not really sure exactly how old this one is, but it's definitely been taken care of. It's got to be at least 60 years old. I think it's probably older than that. These were made, the Q model was made, I believe, right around, starting in maybe 43, 44, 45. These radio receivers were used in aircraft up to, I believe, including the 60s, possibly into the early 70s in some places, but when a lot of those aircraft went to Arizona for mothballs, they were pulled out, and these things were put out onto the surplus market. There is a modification you can do where you don't have the dynamotor anymore, and you build a new power supply right here that has a transformer, rectifier diodes, and some filtering. But I thought it'd be nice to keep it with the dynamotor. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back in. Really the only thing that needs to be done is put this back in. Like I said, I've looked over some stuff, done a visual inspection. When this radio was at the amateur's home, it was set up in an operating manner. It's not like it was just sitting on a shelf or anything, so I think it is something that has been used. So I'm a little more comfortable just from kind of looking over it to turning it on. Hopefully we're still good on that. There are things that can go on with these older receivers and radios, between capacitors drying out, maybe some resistors losing their values and raising in value. So I'm hoping that hasn't happened. But I just really want to see if it's going to turn on, what's going to happen, and see if maybe we can pick something up with it. We'll have to do a little bit of a modification, try and hook 2-wire connection up into my normal antenna system, I'm thinking alligator leads, to a piece of coax, and just run it out to the antenna system from there. It's a receiver. We're not worried about, SWR reflection or anything like that. It's just, it might not work as good if the SWR is not good. But we'll see if it at least can pick something up. So why don't I go ahead and jump in and see if we can't get the Dynamotor put back into its hole. I'm not used to working with a camera on this desk, so my hands might be in the way. I'm not going to be moving the camera around all over the place. These are the connections right here that those wires go to, so I'm going to loosen some of these up. I did have some of them tightened down a little bit so that I could when I was doing the testing. So this basically is just mounted. It's got 4 bolts that are captured in there, captured bolts, and it just sits down in there along with these threaded areas on the front, on the chassis of the radio. I think the hard part's going to be getting these back in there. You got just a little slot to work through here, so we'll see how that goes. And it is a tight fit. It feels like something's getting in my way. I'm wondering if it's the wires. Oh, I know what it is. I actually, you can't have the screws pulled out that far. You nearly have to back them out after you have it in there. They're actually hitting right here. So we'll just screw those down in there a little bit. I might have to loosen them up here in a moment. Now see, that sits down in there just as nice as can be. Then let me grab a screwdriver. And we'll see if we can't get these started into their spots. So I'm going to pull this back out for a moment. I just want to check how this is mounted on this plate. It almost seems a little loose. Actually going to open this up right here. I think one of the screws that I can tighten up, actually you can get to from inside this little panel here. Which also looks like it might be part of the ground connection to the shell of the dynamotor, which I would think you probably want to possibly be connected. Might provide a little bit of shielding. Oh yeah, see right here. Look like I'm the only one that's tried to tighten that up a little bit. Okay. Yeah, that feels a lot better. So I get this cover put back on here. Sorry about hitting the camera there. Okay, yeah, that feels a lot better sitting down in there now. Alright, like I said, just 4 mounting screws. Screw down into the chassis. This thing just about positions itself when you set it down in there. Right down into the holes. The nice thing about this receiver is I did download the service manual to it and look through a few things. And the operator's manual, I downloaded that too, and that is what I really found interesting. Most of everything on this radio, the maintenance of it, keeping it up, is listed in the owner's manual. And this thing was, I mean, this thing's built to be worked on, which, you know, is true of a lot of military equipment. It's either modular or it's repairable, and usually it's you know, not a super complicated situation trying to do the routine maintenance and some very basic, you know, basic repairs of it. So this was something that, you know, like even greasing this is, you know, every 1,000 hours is what the Army Air Corps suggested. Well, actually the manufacturer suggested it, but the Army Air Corps, you know, in the manual says every 1,000 hours for greasing it. So it's something that this would come in and out, you know, every 1,000 hours, operating hours, or 6 months. So let me get this receiver turned here. And I'm going to get it set up on something so I can see a little bit better. So I can get these wires connected. And maybe I can take you for the ride. Oh, there's some of them right there. We're going to get back in here. The light's a little off for me. I think y'all can see fairly well. I'm going to get a flashlight so I can see kind of where the light isn't shining. I got to get 5 wires lined up, and I've got to get these loosened up enough to slide those back in there. Of course, you can already see that one wants to slide in there already. Let me loosen them all a bit. I did take pictures of where these were hooked before from the bottom. It's not like they really color-coded stuff, but you know, you might have a wide black strip. You might have striping. You know, different color, different size striping, stuff like that. Well, I don't know if y'all see that down. You can kind of see how the wires are different. It's got stripes on it. You know, you got a little bit different color, but they're all the colors are pretty much the same. So let me see if I can get focused back up here. Like I said, I'm sorry about the swinging on the camera. It's just something I'm going to have to work on and figure out. So, this thing goes here. Let me go ahead and get this guy over here. And there is a washer in there too. That really needs to go behind. Let me get this guy. See, that guy fell in. These are the high voltage connections. These two to the far right here, the one I'm working on, and this one right here. These have the 250-ish volts on them. This next one right here, I'm sliding in there. If I remember correctly from the schematic, should be the filament voltage, the 28 volts going to the filament. Just want to make sure these are snugged down good. Get the next guy in here. This is the low voltage positive. This would be the 28 volts coming from the aircraft that's powering the dynamotor. And this last one, which I don't think y'all can see this, the camera does not swing over here. Just the way the boom is that I have. I want to make sure that I do keep some decent separation between a few things here. Slide that up in there. Try and keep it over it a little bit. Don't want anybody touching anybody. They all look good. Nice thing is these wires are just stiff enough that they pretty much stay where they're at. So it's not too hard to kind of remember which one goes where. Another thing I wanted to show y'all on this that I did. See if I can get this turned around here and y'all can see it as well. Camera in a better spot is on the connector here for the power coming in. This originally had right here. So first off, the case of this radio slides over the whole thing. It's the top, the back, and the bottom all in one. There's a slot cut out in the case right here and kind of goes back underneath here a little bit. So basically a cutout right where this jack is. On the bottom of the case, there's little feet. I can actually show y'all the case. There's the case right there. That's looking at the bottom of the case. So you've got these little guys right here. They slid into a little spot that it was a cushioned mount. A shock mount. Of course, they locked in little locks right here that slid in and locked this in. On part of that shock mount, was a plug. Now these are bent right here, and they've been bent like that probably for quite a while. They normally are straight. It's an 8-pin connector basically. It's an SO104, so it's a socket. The aircraft, when you slid it in with onto the shock mount, there was a plug that just slid right in there, and everything was already lined up. As long as you slid it into the mount right, you were good, and the plug would just plug right into that. There was no wiring the radio into the aircraft. You just unlocked it, slid it out, grabbed a new one, or once you got done doing repairs on this one, and it slid it in and it plugged in right here. So these two right here are the 28 volts coming from the aircraft. In our case, they're going to be running from a 28 volt power supply. The other ones, let's see, I believe this one was receiver muting, I think. Because this was the receiver, it also had a companion transmitter. And don't ask me the nomenclature on it. I can't remember any right now. So when you would go to transmit, it would mute this. Basically, kind of shut it down. I think it kept the heaters going, basically. By cutting, the connection between these two. And I'm not really sure what these are. They could have something to do with partially with the antenna switching, because the transmitter and the receiver shared the same antenna. So these were soldered on to these lugs. I didn't really like that. For one, I think it's going to work better with some spade connectors. Spade connectors do, pretty much slide over these pretty well. You got to adjust them a little bit. It's a little thick, but you just open them up a little bit, and they're pretty tight on there. But the reason why is when you slide the whole radio, into the case, it's hard to line this up with the hole, because once you come in here, you can't get your hand in here. If this wire, unless it happens to fall out the hole, there's the hole, and you can see that's all the hole there is. Those basically those spade connections, if you want, for lack of a better term, stick through there. So that normally it would just slide in here, that plug would just slide in there and make contact with it. It's hard to hit that hole when you can't hold the wire. So I'm thinking if all else fails, I don't have to have the power wire on the radio. I can take this off, slide it into the case, and then all I got to do is plug the two wires in. I think that's going to be much easier. And definitely a lot easier to do this. So I think right now I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to get this set up. It does take a little bit of hands and probably getting the camera out of the way in order to get it back in its case. We might actually fire this thing up before we put it in the case. That way, if anything starts going wrong, we might see it before it goes really bad. So we'll do that. I do got to get the power supply over here, get it plugged in, and then we'll turn it on. We'll keep our fingers crossed that everything works okay, and I'll see if I can get an antenna kind of run over to it, and we'll see if this thing comes to life. So give me just a few moments. Okay, we're back, and I think we're ready to give this thing a shot. You can just see over in the corner of your screen here, right here, right over here. And you have two alligator clips hooked up, and they are hooked to the end of some coax, which is going over to my transceiver switch, which then runs through the antenna tuner and out to the antenna. So hopefully this is going to work okay. I might have to put the antenna tuner in bypass. I do have power hooked up around back of it to the 28 volt power supply. I don't have the power supply plugged in quite yet. We're going to do this one step at a time. I think I'm going to go ahead and go down here to a lower frequency. Let's go here. Not sure how it's going to work, but it is late evening, so maybe we're going to get some stuff in the 3.5 to 6 megahertz, megacycles range. So let me go ahead and plug the power supply in. We'll cross our fingers, say a little prayer, and turn the switch. Power supply is plugged in. It does not have a power switch on the power supply, so there is 28 volts going to the dynamotor right now. It's just not turned on. So here comes the test. Oh, let me grab one other thing. We're not going to know anything if we don't have a speaker. This is the speaker that the previous owner was using. I've already opened this up. There is a transformer inside of this, because this does have a high impedance output. So, I might have to look up real quick to find out which one this goes in. We're gonna go with this one. In fact, why don't I pause? I want to double check this. There's two out plugs I just shown you before. One says TLE, and I cannot remember if that means headphones or loudspeaker, and the other one's not labeled. Let me pause a moment. I'm going to look that up real quick in the owner's manual, or operator's manual, and then we'll be right back. So give me just a second. Okay, we're back. I just checked the manual. It doesn't really matter. They're both supposed to be live. It's not really labeled. Let me see if I can get this over here where I'm talking about here. So if you look in here, I thought one of them wasn't labeled. Wow, get that in there, it don't want to come out. That's just in between the two. It's labeling both of them. So it doesn't really matter which one you put it in. So we'll just put it in that one right there. It's just, you can hook two up to the same output. Let me get up here again where we can see things maybe a little bit better. Trying to get it to focus a little bit. Let me turn this light off, see if it wants to focus a little better. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Okay, so it's got power to the dynamotor, and really all we got to do is flip this switch, and we will, just trying to get this a little bit better for y'all. Maybe you can see the whole radio. I'm blocking some of the lights. So I'm just going to turn it to automatic volume control, and hopefully everything is going to come to life just like it's supposed to. So if you hear a whirring sound, that's the dynamotor spinning up, and it'll probably take a moment for the tubes to heat up before anything comes out. Hopefully it does. So 3, 2, 1. Looks like we do have dial lights. Kind of see the dial lights right there. Oh, we got a broadcast station. So it's working. I'm hoping y'all can hear that. Okay, so that's, I'm not sure y'all can read the dial here, but that's, 59, 5.95, so 5950 or so. Let's go ahead and seems to tune. It is picking up broadcast stations, we know that. I'm going to get down here to, what I really want to try here is actually getting onto 75 meters and seeing if I can hear something from there. Another broadcast station. Oh. There's WWV. And it's nearly dead on 5 megahertz. The dial might be off just slightly. Some more broadcast stations. Okay, so Here's what I want to try. You can hear that muffled, garbled sound. That's sideband. We're in the 75 meter band right now. I'm going to put the CW oscillator in, see if it's working. Adjust the beat frequency and the frequency. I'm going to see if I can pick up single sideband with this. And there's sideband on a radio, a receiver that was probably built before they had sideband. I'm using the CW oscillator to do a beat frequency. So there's actually a, let me go down here a little bit. There's a signal there. So I'm going to go over to manual volume control and make sure it's operational over there as well. I'm going to go back to ABC. That's got the crystal filter. It's going to narrow things up quite a bit, so it's going to be hard to hear single sideband. So let's turn that out. So there you go. I'll just give you a comparison. That's just using the CW oscillator as the beat frequency. That's in basically AM mode. Can't hear anything, so we're going to put the beat frequency back in. So it's working down there. Let's I'm going to go up to 40 meters. Bottom into 40 meters here. Put my crystal filter back in, see how it does. Do some tuning. That crystal filter really cuts it out a little bit. But then it really narrows it up. So it's probably useful for This is so fun. This is so cool, y'all. You just don't even know. 60, 70, 80-year-old radio, possibly. Close to 80 years, possibly. I think this one might actually be a later one. This is so cool. And I'm really glad to see the panel lights. The panel lights are working. I don't know if they've been replaced anytime, in the near recently, but wow. So I'm gonna go up here to see if we can get some 40-meter sideband. Wow, this is so. I am enjoying this so much, y'all. We'll get this thing down to the clubhouse, and we can have some fun. It's not. It's a little more work than a modern modern receiver, but this is so cool. I wonder if 20's still open. Okay, I am going to do one thing. I'm going to unhook the antenna for just a moment. I need to retune the antenna, but I'm going to use a different transceiver to get it to tune up to 20, and I don't want to put anything through that other one, so I'm just gonna come up here and do some tuning on this other, just get it into 20 meters, so we have some a better chance of hearing something. Hook the antenna back up here. Get down here into now. I'm not sure if the receiver's down on receive on 20, or if it's just that late. But we do have 20-meter voices. Takes a lot more volume up on 20 meters. I might go through and see if I can't do some tuning up on this, if I got the right equipment. The manual is written for gear that you would have available to you in the 40s and 50s. That's issued by the Army. So we're getting some DX. Okay, so there's oh, what is Lima Uniform 7? So this, let's see here. I couldn't remember what that prefix is. Lima uniform. I'm trying to look that up right now. I'm trying to look this guy up. Give me just a moment. Starting to get a little fade on that now. So this guy is Argentina. Not sure y'all can hear him real well. I have volume all the way up. I'm gonna turn this down. I'm gonna go over to manual volume control. Gives it about the same. Go back over to audio. So I think 20 meters might be down. This band might be down just a little bit. Let's see what else we got. Anybody want to do digital on an 60 to 80-year-old receiver? You know, I'm almost willing to try that. Could be FT8. Some good CW signals. Okay, you know, I want to go back down to, well, let's check the other band. Nope, that is the top band. Okay, I'm thinking I need to clean some contacts inside that. Because I'm actually getting a little better signal there. I think I'm going to have to go in here and clean the contacts on the band switch in one of the... Because when I did that, things... Yeah, yeah, when I play with the band switch, 20 meters is actually working a lot better. I'm actually now nowhere near, I mean, that's got more static to it now. So I'm thinking I need to get in some and clean some contacts on this. So let's go back down to the 40 real quick. Get some sideband on that.
November 6th, Charlie, Indian Tango, could I have
Gotta be real careful with the tuning.
I got you, Clarence. Whiskey 5, Officer Tango, John. Roger, roger.
Okay, and just gonna turn this down a moment. I want to listen to the just kind of listen to some stuff. The Dynamotor does have some heat to it. Of course, it is running, but it sounds good still. It's got a little noise to it, but well, it's a Dynamotor. Okay, and I'm going back down to 75. There's some teletype. It'll be about 3950. Just want to see if I can pick up some guys right in here. Okay, so there you have it, y'all. BC348Q. This is fun. I like this. Oh, wow. Just wow. I can't say anything. This is so cool operating this radio. How many people can get excited about just turning on and listening to a radio? Wow. Just the technology that it is. I mean, we're literally using, we're 20 volts going in. We're using a dynamotor to power it. Tube radio. This thing's from the 40s, maybe early 50s. It seems to be in very good shape. This is just so cool. I know everybody down at the Ham Club is just going to love this. This thing, it receives so nicely. And I mean, look, there's no digital signal processing on this thing. There's no filtering really on this thing, as far as all the stuff that you have now. As far all the stuff that you have in your radios now for filtering, signal processing, and this thing sounds great. This is just so cool. Sometimes there's some guys on AM. Now there's some signals there, but normally there's some AM right around in there. Well, I could play with this thing all night, but I know y'all don't want to spend the next 9 hours. Wow.
It's got already has the Jennings vacuum cap in there for C1. It's got a silver-plated tank coil. Of course, I'll rip that out.
Wow. That's all I have to say. I better shut this off, or you're all going to be up here all night watching this video. And hearing that dynamotor spin down. Wow, so there it is, BC348Q, Signal Corps, U.S. Army. And you know something? That right there tells me that this is probably definitely before 1947. Y'all Air Force guys correct me if I'm wrong, but as long as Air Force started in 1947, if I remember correctly. So that means this was still when there was Signal Corps. But wow. So this is at least a, 60, 76-year-old radio? And still working. And from what I can tell, a good portion of what's inside of it's still original. So I'm glad y'all stopped by and watched this video. Hopefully it didn't come out way too long. Thanks for stopping by the radio room and checking this out. I think this was a really cool video. And so glad to turn this thing on and it comes to life. And we listen to signals on it. And it's just got a little more cleanup, I think. Maybe get in there and clean some contacts on some stuff. I think that's going to bring it to life a little bit. I'm going to look over maybe some maintenance stuff to it, see if I have the equipment, modern equivalent to actually check this thing out and kind of give it a little tune-up according to the way the U.S. Army recommended it being doing. So, all right, thanks for stopping by. See you later.